It looked like a good thing. But wait till I tell you. We were down south in Alabama, Bill Driscoll and myself, when this kidnapping idea struck us. It was, as Bill afterward expressed it,
during a moment of temporary mental apparition.
But we didn't find that out until later. There was a town down there as flat as a funnel cake, and called Summit, of course. It contained inhabitants of as undeleterious and self-satisfied a class of peasantry as ever clustered around a maypole. Bill and me had joint capital of about $600, and we needed just $2,000 more to pull off a fraudulent town lot scheme in western Illinois with. We talked it over on the front steps of the hotel. Philoprogenitiveness, says we, is strong in semi-rural communities. Therefore, and for other reasons, a kidnapping project ought to do better there than in the radius of newspapers that send reporters out in plain clothes to stir up talk about such things. We selected for our victim the only child of a prominent citizen named Ebenezer Dorset. The father was respectable and tight, a mortgage fancier and a stern, upright collection plate passer and forecloser. The kid was a boy of 10, with bas-relief freckles and hair the color of the cover of a magazine you buy at the newsstand when you want to catch a train. Bill and me figured out that Ebenezer would melt down for a ransom of $2,000 to a cent. But wait until I tell you. About 2 miles from Summit was a little mountain covered with a dense cedar brake. On the rear elevation of this mountain was a cave. There were stored provisions. Now, one evening after sundown, we drove a buggy past old Dorset's house. The kid was in the street, throwing rocks at a kitten on the opposite fence.
Hey, little boy, would you like to have a bag of candy and a nice ride?
The boy catches Bill neatly in the eye with a piece of brick.
Ah! God! That will cost the old man an extra $500.
That boy put up a fight like a welterweight cinnamon bear, but at last we got him down in the bottom of the buggy and drove away. We took him up to the cave, and I hitched the horse in the cedar brake. After dark, I drove the buggy to a little village 3 miles away where we had hired it and walked back to the mountain. Bill was pasting court plaster over the scratches and bruises on his features. There was a fire burning behind the big rock at the entrance of the cave, and the boy was watching a pot of boiling coffee with 2 buzzard tail feathers stuck in his red hair. He points a stick at me when I come up.
Ha! Cursed pale-face, do you dare to enter the camp of Red Chief, the terror of the plains?
He's all right now.
Bill was rolling up his trousers and examining some bruises on his shins.
We're playing Indian. We're making Buffalo Bill's show look like magic lantern views of Palestine in the town hall. I'm old Hank, the trapper, Red Chief's captive, and I'm going to be scalped at daybreak. Geronimo, that kid can kick hard.
Yes, sir. That boy seemed to be having the time of his life. The fun of camping out in the cave had made him forget that he was a captive himself. He immediately christened me Snake Eye, the spy, and announced that when his braves returned from the warpath, I was to be broiled at the stake at the rising of the sun. Then we had supper, and he filled his mouth full of bacon and bread and gravy and began to talk. He made a during dinner speech something like this.
I like this fine. I never camped out before, but I had a pet possum once. I was 9 last birthday. I hate to go to school. Rats ate up 16 of Jimmy Talbot's aunt's speckled hen's eggs. Are there any real Indians in these woods? I want some more gravy. Does the trees moving make the wind blow? We have 5 puppies. What makes your nose so red, Hank? My father has lots of money. Are the stars hot? I whipped Ed Walker twice Saturday. I don't like girls. You dassent catch toes unless with a string. Do oxen make any noise? Why are oranges round? Have you got any beds to sleep on in this cave? Amos Murray has 6 toes, and a parrot can talk, but a monkey or a fish can't. How many does it take to make 12?
Every few minutes he would remember that he was a pesky redskin, and pick up his stick rifle and tiptoe to the mouth of the cave to look out for the scouts of the hated paleface. Now and then he would let out a war whoop that made old Hank the Trapper shiver. That boy had Bill terrorized from the start. Red Chief, would you like to go home?
Oh, what for? I don't have any fun at home. I hate to go to school. I like to camp out. You won't take me back home again, will you, Snake Eye?
Oh, not right away. We'll stay here in the cave a while.
All right, that'll be fine. I never had so much fun in all my life.
We went to bed around 11 o'clock. We spread down some wide blankets and quilts and put Red Chief between us. And we weren't afraid he'd run away. He kept us awake for 3 hours, jumping up and reaching for his rifle and screeching in mine and Bill's ears as the fancy crackle of a twig or the rustle of a leaf revealed to his young imagination the stealthy approach of the outlaw band. Last I fell into a troubled sleep and dreamed that I had been kidnapped and chained to a tree by a ferocious pirate with red hair. Just at daybreak, I was awakened by a series of awful screams from Bill. They weren't yells, or howls, or shouts, or whoops, or yawps, such as you'd expect from a manly set of vocal organs. They were simply indecent, terrifying, humiliating screams, such as women emit when they see ghosts or caterpillars. It's an awful thing to hear a strong, desperate, fat man scream incontinently in a cave at daybreak. I jumped up to see what the matter was. Red Chief was sitting on Bill's chest with one hand twined in Bill's hair. In the other he had the sharp case knife we use for slicing bacon, and he was industriously and realistically trying to take Bill's scalp, according to the sentence that had been pronounced upon him the evening before. I got the knife away from the kid and made him lie down again. From that moment, Bill's spirit was broken. He lay down on his side of the bed, but he never closed his eye again in sleep as long as that boy was with us. I dozed off for a while, but along towards sunup, I remembered that Red Chief had said that I was to be burned at the stake at the rising of the sun. I wasn't nervous or afraid, but I sat up and lit my pipe and leaned against a rock.
What are you getting up so soon for, Sam?
Oh, me? I got a kind of pain in my shoulder, and I thought sitting up would rest it.
You're a liar. You're afraid. You was to be burned at sunrise, and you was afraid he'd do it. He would too. If he could find a match. Ain't it awful, Sam? Do you think anybody will pay out money to get a little imp like that back home?
Sure. A rowdy kid like that is just the kind that parents dote on. Now, you and the chief get up and cook breakfast while I go up on the top of this mountain and reconnoiter. Then I went down the mountain to breakfast. When I got to the cave, I found Bill backed up against the side of it, breathing hard, and the boy threatening to smash him with a rock half as big as a coconut.
He put a red-hot boiled potato down my back and then smashed it with his foot, and I boxed his ears. Have you got a gun about you, Sam?
I took the rock away from the boy and kind of patched up the argument.
I'll fix you. No man ever yet struck the Red Chief, but he got paid for it. You better beware.
After breakfast, the kid takes out a piece of leather with strings wrapped around it out of his pocket, and he goes outside the cave unwinding it.
What's he up to now? You don't think he'll run away, do you, Sam?
No fear of it. He don't seem to be much of a homebody. But we've got to fix up some plans about the ransom. There don't seem to be much excitement around Summit on account of his disappearance. But maybe they haven't realized yet that he's gone. His folks may think he's spending the night with Aunt Jane or one of the neighbors. Anyhow, he'll be missed today. Tonight, we must get a message to his father demanding the $2,000 for his return.
Woo!
Just then we heard a kind of war whoop, such as David might have emitted when he knocked out the champion Goliath. It was a sling that Red Chief had pulled out of his pocket, and he was whirling it around his head. I dodged, but I heard a heavy thud and a kind of a sigh from Bill, like a horse gives out when you take his saddle off. A rock the size of an egg had caught Bill just behind his left ear. He loosened himself all over and fell in the fire across the frying pan of hot water for washing the dishes. I dragged him out and poured cold water on his head for half an